the most important discourse of it all. We got Why Dr. Seuss's Cancellation is Chilling by Cathy Young. Big hint, it's not that chilling, but wait. The goal is when we get Rico back, we're gonna read through this article, and the main reason why I chose this article in particular to go through is you had people who are not necessarily on the right came in with very awkward opinions on this piece, in my opinion, by saying, oh, what Cathy Young here is saying is really important and we should listen to Cathy Young, not the like really far out there right-wingers who are going down this like culture war grift thing and like saying that the estate canceling the books is like cancel culture. And so Cathy Young apparently is coming in with the centrist middle ground take, and a lot of liberals have like bought this line. And I'm going to go through with Rico, hopefully, and we will sort of point out why I think that is bullshit. And I think Rico will agree. I saw Rico, the main reason I reached out to Rico was because I saw him engage with some people on Twitter about this crap as well, and was getting also very annoyed with it. I was getting annoyed with it too, like even, again, like I cover the Rebel. This has come up on the Rebel as well. It's the same bullshit. A lot of these people... It becomes like, oh, it's like a pull towards a kind of nostalgia of like, I read Dr. Seuss as a kid, and so therefore I must like continue to perpetuate Dr. Seuss to all the kids, rather than just like, do we need to? and as I admitted on, because we did a little brief coverage of the Dr. Seuss stuff on Friday on the stream, because the Rebel had put out a couple videos. I've read Dr. Seuss to my kids, and I own a bunch of Dr. Seuss books, and they're not... Part of me is like, I didn't have any problem in doing it, and a lot of the books that we have that we did read to them, they're kind of like more nonsense and like abstract anyways. So there's like, it's not really a lesson to impart to the kids. There's no like moral of the story. Like when you read Hop on Pop, it's just like... Or Fox and Socks. It's mostly all just like rhyming words, and it's about like the interest in language rather than any kind of like moral story about like race or stuff. Because a big part of this is, I guess, people refer to some of... Are you back?
Hello?
Oh, you sound much better. Okay. Beautiful.
Hey.
Can you hear me now, though? Can you hear me?
I fucking...
Rico!
This is... Headset as well, I can't... Why are you doing this to me?
Rico, this is kind of the technical difficulties we were having earlier before.
Clicking.
Oh, do you hear me? Hello?
I hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. You were clean. I heard a little bit of staticky. Oh.
Yeah, my headset's about to die anyway.
Okay.
Oh.
Technical difficulties. Are you there now, or are you just getting a new headset? I guess he's getting...
I'm getting a new headset. This fucking bullshit technology is always just making my life miserable.
I feel you. My microphone does like a permanent like wavery effect thing, because I think it's getting like interference from the Wi-Fi or some shit. I have to upgrade my whole system. It's how it goes. Hey, if you want to help me upgrade my system, you can subscribe to the Twitch, especially if you have an Amazon account and you have a Twitch Prime thing. Look at me, I'm engaging in capitalism, Rico. I'm not good at it, but I try my best. If you like what we're doing, smash that subscribe, smash that follow, hit that like button. I'm not meant to be a Twitch streamer, I don't think.
Okay, doke.
All right, perfect.
All right, can you hear me?
I can, and you don't sound like you're being pushed through a meat grinder, so we're good.
Okay, doke.
So I just set it up. Do you know? So do you know who? Can you hear me? Just make sure that I'm being heard. Rico? Rico?
Oh, my headphones are plugged in. I can't fucking hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
God damn it! I cannot catch a break tonight.
What is going on? Let me see. I'm going to type to Rico because it could be that he has to change settings.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear this
Oh.
time with no static. All right, now I see what the problem is. It's those Bluetooth headsets that just seems to fuck everything up. So I'm done using those.
Perfect. Perfect.
This is the best it sounded. It's just obviously I like to have the Bluetooth so I can fucking move around freely. God fucking damn it!
No, the Bluetooth stuff sucks because as soon as like the signal starts to degrade, that's like probably what was happening.
That's when shit starts to just fall apart.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
So do you know Cathy Young?
Yes, I know Cathy Young, the woman with the fucking political instincts of a gnat who just can't seem to see. Like just thinking back to her, my first interaction with her was she was one of the Milo defenders back in the day. That's how bad her political instincts are.
Exactly. And she's written this article. I don't know if you've read the article or not, but it's very short. We're going to go into it. But before we go into it, I'm curious what your general sentiments about this whole Dr. Seuss shit is. Because my audience has already heard, and I briefly talked a bit before this, but like, curious what you think.
I mean, fucking, it is as I've said. They've got nothing left.
Yeah.
They blew their load. Like their entire political movement, their culture war bullshit, everything culminated in the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. This is where all of that was ultimately leading. Not just the culture war, but just their decades of stoking apocalyptic misinformation and lies, especially in the advent of the internet. Like this is where it was always gonna lead. The Civil War hysteria, then fantasizing, like this is how it was always gonna end. And now that it blew up in their faces, now they have nothing left. They can't attack Biden. They can't attack the COVID relief bill. They have nothing.
Yeah.
So this is all they've got left is this culture war bullshit.
Yeah, and it is bullshit. I mean, like particularly this story. Now, Cathy Young is gonna have like, I guess I will call it arguably a nuanced take. And has seemed to, I think, like Matt Iglesias of ex-Vox News host and like liberal dude was like, oh, this is a good read on this issue or whatever. So it's made its way into liberal circles as being like a more moderate take or a more like reasonable take. But like the initial crap that was coming out of the right was like really bad because they were seeming to think that like, because the estate itself, like, put out this thing to cancel the book, that somehow this was cancel culture. And then conservatives started buying the book from the estate, and it's like...
From the estate. What a way to reward the people who are doing the thing you guys say you're against.
Yeah, exactly. And giving them, what is it?
Lots of money.
Lots of money, but also, like, a signal. You're signaling to them to incentivize them to do this again in the future.
Yeah. Hey, conservatives are dumb as dog shit and will fall for it.
Yeah.
Like they all we literally have to do is cancel any one of our books, say it's cancel culture, and dumbass conservatives will make it we'll make all the rest of our books bestsellers.
Right, exactly. Turn up Rico, please. Okay, yeah, I had to adjust Rico because of the crackling. Say a few words, Rico. Let me know if this is better, Nick.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Is that better, Nick? Louder? I don't know if I can get it louder. It's on the cusp of getting into the red, so I don't want Rico so loud that the speakers explode when people like listen.
I am yelling, so if you do that, I'm always talking loud. I am always talking loudly. If you raise me up any higher, your speakers will explode.
Nick just said, "Oh, it's me." It's like, thanks, Nick. Thanks for the help.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
We love Nick, moderator Nick. Everyone say hi to Nick in the chat. So we're gonna
fuck Nick.
we're gonna read this Cathy Young article. It's pretty short. I'm gonna read it out loud, and then we'll stop and point at some of the silliness as we go on. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says, the latest culture war battle is raging around Dr. Seuss, the American children's author, an artist whose whimsical and warm-hearted work has won him a global following. On March 2nd, Dr. Seuss Enterprises, which licenses and publishes his books, announced that it is dropping 6 of the 60-plus titles because of hurtful racial stereotypes. And hurtful is in quotes, so I don't know if she's directly quoting them or I don't know, like fake quoting them.
If she's quoting the hurtful, I imagine she's either being kind of mockingly sarcastic or she's just like kind of making a statement that that's the word to focus on here.
I was saying, Nick just said, "Isn't Dr. Seuss the cat guy?" I'm pretty sure it was yesterday we were chatting with Nick, and Nick thought Dr. Seuss was the Cat in the Hat.
Oh, God, Nick, you fucking
I love you, Nick.
Swine.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Yes, Nick, you fucking. I love you, buddy.
No, I've done similar things. It's just hilarious, this like cultural thing. He blames it on the fact that I guess the Dr. Seuss didn't make it all the way to the UK or isn't as popular in the UK, which fine, I'll forgive you. So it goes on. This has been met with an outcry about cancel culture and book banning from conservatives, as well as some centrists and liberals worried about politically correct excesses. Others counter that there is no cancellation, just a corporate decision to stop reprinting books that are jarringly dated due to evolving cultural attitudes, and that will remain widely available even without new editions. And then she goes, as often happens, each side has a point.
What do you mean each side has a point? No, the other side is the other. This is why I fucking hate Cathy. She always does this. No, the other side is wrong.
Yeah. Like, she names, like, 3 positions here, but it's, like, maybe, like, the last one, or, like, the last 2 kind of have a point. But, like, I'll get into why one of them... I mean, you could have done a good article pointing out why the other ones are wrong, but she's kind of going to get into it, why the one more reasonable-sounding one here is, like, we should be a little bit more worried than we are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So she goes...
This is what...
Yeah. No, it's radical centrism. It's what it is.
That is her whole fucking thing.
There is nothing new about revising or even shelving published works in deference to concerns about racism and other bigotries. Nor is there anything wrong with it. In Victoria, England, hardly a bastion of political correctness, Charles Dickens changed some language in reprints of Oliver Twist to cut down on references to the villainous Fagin as the Jew after a correspondence with a Jewish woman who criticized him for feeding into anti-Semitic prejudice. In the 20th century, a 1939 Agatha Christie novel, whose original title is now Unspeakable in Polite Society, was reissued just a few years later as 10 Little Indians, and then there were none, in the United States. The children's counting rhyme on which the title was based was also changed in the text. In Roald Dahl's 1964 classic Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Oompa Loompa working at Willy Wonka's factories were originally African pygmies. Just a few years later, controversy erupted. Dahl ended up agreeing with his critics and replaced the black workers with pink and golden-haired dwarvish hippies. So I guess she's setting it up of like, look, there are these cases throughout history where people have said...
But a big butt is coming. A big butt is coming. Just wait for it.
There is little question that many depictions of racial, ethnic, or religious minorities in books or films from past eras are now unpalatable, with good reason. The same goes for portrayals of women and gays. And yet,
Here we go. Yep. Here we go. Here we go.
there are valid reasons to see the publisher's withdrawal of those 6 Dr. Seuss books as a worrying sign.
How do you make the point you just made that perfectly explains why they did it
Yeah.
with historical evidence and precedent, and now she's about to undermine it and completely undermine that very correct point completely.
I mean, there is an irony of her making the case then undermining it. I mean, like, in some ways you would think that, like, that part of that is, like, straw manning, right? She's trying to straw man, say, like, you or I's position. But then what I'm going to guarantee you is she goes off the rails a little bit.
Let's go. Let's fucking do it.
For one, the decision comes in tandem with other moves intended to demote Dr. Seuss from his iconic status.
Yep, here it goes.
On the same day, President Biden omitted any mention of Dr. Seuss from his official proclamation to mark Read Across America Day, breaking tradition started by Barack Obama.
Oh, boy.
You know, the long-held traditions of 2008.
The long-held traditions of 2008. She make this shit sound like this is an age-old fucking tradition.
Yeah.
It started. Oh my god. Please do keep going. I want to see her completely continue to straw man and fucking undermine the original correct position.
The event, first established by the National Education Association in 1998, has always honored Dr. Seuss. So I guess before Barack Obama was doing this, it didn't make it up to the president, but the NEA has for a while been promoting Dr. Seuss. His birthday was picked as its date, so I guess they're founding, or the day that they promote the Read Across America Day was Dr. Seuss's birthday or something. Now the NEA says that Read Across America is no longer affiliated with Dr. Seuss Enterprises, and at least one school district in Virginia has been instructing schools to downplay the day's connection to Dr. Seuss because of, in quotes here, strong racial undertones found in his work. Now, from what I understand with the Virginia thing, is they're reviewing stuff. Like, they haven't, from what I gather,
they're going through the books. They're not, it's just like, it's not, they're not even suspending this shit indefinitely.
Right. I also want to say, too, like, with some of this stuff about the NEA and all this, and, like, Dr. Seuss's Enterprises not being part of it, I mean, a lot of these things are in tandem because I think they are related. I think the fact that the NEA itself was like, we don't feel like we're going to promote Dr. Seuss anymore. And from my understanding, the reason comes from the fact that they wanted to move towards promoting diversity and inclusion in their Read Across America thing. And if you're going to do diversity and inclusion, your relationship with someone who arguably does have strong racial undertones, as Cathy is putting quotes here, might be a factor in why you don't include that in a list of books trying to improve diversity and inclusion, right?
Yeah.
And so even though this thing was established in 1998, it doesn't mean that this is like some deeply held tradition thing that it's now worrying that we're changing our minds or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It goes on, though. What's more, the critique of those racial undertones has been tendentious to the point of distortion. Thus, a CNN article asserts that Giselle, who's Dr. Seuss, who was also a political cartoonist, and then she quotes, had a long history of publishing racist and anti-Semitic work spanning back to the 1920s when he was a student at Dartmouth College. There, Dr. Seuss once drew black boxers as gorillas and perpetuated Jewish stereotypes by portraying Jewish characters as financially stingy. Okay? So notice how she sets this up. She goes that there's a tendentiousness to the point of distortion. And then she's...
What's being distorted, though? That's like, you still have to articulate what's being distorted. Was that wrong? Does she point out how that
So here's how she thinks that it's wrong. She goes, no mention is made of the fact that by the 1940s, the cartoonist had emerged as an outspoken foe of anti-Semitism, a stance that would later earn him the title of honorary Jew bestowed by Jerusalem Mayor Teddy Kollek in 1969, and of anti-black racism. A 1942 cartoon skewered racial discrimination in U.S. war industries. An interest for N-word job hunters is shown, leading to an impenetrable maze. So here's what she basically did here. This is the, he can't be racist. He has Jewish friends. Like, that's the argument being made here.
Because the whole point was when she said it's to the point of distortion. Well, you have to mean that the thing that was stated that he did is being distorted. Like, there's a truth that's being distorted. But no, she doesn't even debunk the thing that she says, the truth that she says is distorted. She just kind of bait and switches you to he has Jewish friends.
Well, I guess what she's trying to say, and I agree with you more than her here, but she's saying, if I were to charitably read what she's saying here, she's saying is that the distortion is you're making it seem like he was this virulent racist when he clearly had Jewish friends that called him an honorary Jew. So therefore, like, if you're just cherry picking the racist moments, you're distorting the history, I think is the point she's trying to make.
That is the most charitable interpretation of that. And even then, though, I'm not big on that because, as we both know, and again, from my own personal experience, there ain't no shortage of people who try to call you one of the good ones. Yep. I know from my own personal experience, there ain't no shortage of people who will do that shit.
And I will say, we pointed this out on our stream last Friday, which is there is a cartoon that he was very anti-Nazi. And so credit where credit's due, Dr. Seuss, not a Nazi. So that's, you know what, like, you know, thumbs up.
But he meant it.
And one of the images that he did was he had a person wearing an American First shirt connected by beard to a Nazi, and was basically making the point that these people are the same thing. So not only was he anti-Nazi, he was comparing it to the American First movement, which, you know, back to the shit we were covering earlier with, like, John Doyle and all these people, like, they're all American Firsters. This is...
Absolutely. They are all flat out fucking fascists.
Right.
Like, period. Like, John Doyle especially.
So Dr. Seuss, someone who was racially problematic, at least knew that much. You know. Which I don't mind. I don't think, you know, and I don't think that's like, I don't think it's a distortion for CNN to do this. Like, specifically if, like, CNN's trying to highlight how, like, Dr. Seuss is being seen as racist, the things that they said are quite clearly going to, like, give you that sense of it. Like, they don't have to go through every single event of Dr. Seuss's life to make sure that they get the complete 100% balanced perspective.
Yeah.
So we'll go on.
I mean, yeah, keep going.
Regrettably, many of Dr. Seuss's wartime cartoons also featured the blatant anti-Japanese racism that was a staple of U.S. war propaganda.
Oh, I see what she did there.
I do see, but you spell it out. You go for it.
What she just did there is try to seem like this is what was the thing at the time. He wasn't really racist against Japanese people. That was just the standard U.S. war propaganda. And that is not at all indicative of his character.
Yeah, he was just a product of his time.
Just a product of his time argument. Never get tired of that one.
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with that argument?
Okay, so it's fucking because what that is like it's a way to deflect to absolve that person's responsibility. Because obviously we can't know 100% because we aren't there. We aren't with the guy. So they kind of just try to make it seem like that was just the mores of the time. But even then, that's not even historically accurate because a lot of it turns out, not a lot of people weren't as racist as we try to just blanket use on everybody. Like, everybody was racist at the time. Everybody, even Abraham Lincoln was racist and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a difference and you are trying to paper over it.
Exactly. There was people who were completely against the internment of the Japanese during World War II.
Yeah,
Completely
but she tries to
against
make it. But she tries to make it seem like that was just the standard to be okay with that and to be raped. That was just the mores of the time.
And we'll get maybe into it in a bit. I can't remember if it comes up or not, but Dr. Seuss lived until the 1990s. Like, he died an old man, and not once did he apologize for his anti-Japanese propaganda during this time period.
Nope.
And it was one of the things that he was just like, no, of course he would hate the Japs. That's who we were fighting. And I didn't mean to even say the slur there, but like that's how he wrote it. Like,
that's how they said it. That's how he wrote it.
Yeah, and that's the way that it was for him back then, right? And he never apologized for it.
It's not, because he believes in that. That is how he personally genuinely felt.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that this was the only reason. No, it didn't seem like he apologized for any of what he did. And what's really done is that everybody else is just trying to sanitize his image.
Yep.
Trying to retcon the fact that he was kind of unapologetically racist.
Yep. At least, like, not perfectly so, and we'll get to that in a second too.
Keep going.
So I'll reread that sentence to go into the next sentence here. Regrettably, many of Dr. Seuss's wartime cartoons also featured the blatant anti-Japanese racism that was a staple of U.S. war propaganda. Yet in later years, his children's books often served as parables denouncing racial prejudice and xenophobia. Horton Hears a Who, written after a visit to Japan, famously declared, a person is a person, no matter how small, and was dedicated to a Japanese friend, Mitsugi Nakamura. So, you see, he has Japanese friends too, and he visited Japan. So all the stuff that he did that was anti-Japanese racism, you could just ignore that. It's fine. Even though he never apologized for it directly, he had a Japanese friend that he dedicated a book to, so...
There ain't no shortage of that. Ain't no shortage of that. I am much less concerned about, oh, hey, this one Japanese person really likes him and says he's cool and totally not racist. I mean, like, has he ever apologized for his own work? Ever? Has he ever come out of, like, can any of you quote a statement of him denouncing his past works? No? Well, guess what then, motherfuckers? His few friends who are celebrating him or are celebrating him isn't evidence of him not being racist.
Yeah, I don't think she gets into it. Oh yeah, she does. So I'll there's one point that maybe he did kind of make an apology, but we'll get to that in a second. So but you'll love this next sentence, which is a standalone sentence. To erase this complicated history really does smack of cancellation.
It's not erasing his history. You can find out all of this shit on your own. All it's doing, and again, this was the Enterprise themselves just taking off 6 books that are still available.
I think the funny thing is like, take this to its logical conclusion. It's like she's criticizing a CNN article for not being a historical dissertation, but she herself is not doing a historical dissertation on Dr. Seuss. She herself is just giving you like tidbit after tidbit, which is not a cohesive, comprehensive history of Dr. Seuss. And she's about to get into a paragraph where she cites a paper that does get into that history. She just disagrees with it, and we're going to find out how superficially she deals with that. But you were going to say something, sorry.
Keep going, please.
So this is my favorite paragraph out of the whole thing. No less disturbing, much of the current pushback against Dr. Seuss is based on a 2019 paper by Katie Ishizuka and Ramon Stevens that consistently interprets his work in the most negative light and peddles extreme ideological dogma.
There we go. What is it peddling?
Extreme ideological dogma, Rico. Don't you know what that is?
Jody, that is a bold fucking statement. She better back that statement up.
a bold statement that she, not only does she not back it up, I don't even know what the fuck it means.
She doesn't elaborate on that. She just says extreme ideology and just leaves it like you. There's a whole lot of nuance. There's a whole lot of nuance and stuff. You're just not understanding and seeing the full picture.
So
with regards to Dr. Seuss and racism, but the extreme ideology is just extreme ideology.
And well, she gives you two examples of why like this paper that I guess is supposed to elicit this idea that it's extreme ideological dogma. So here's what she says. Take Dr. Seuss's 1961 book, The Sneetches, which has been widely praised for anti-racist messaging. Bird-like creatures with stars on their bellies scorn and bully their plain-bellied cousins until a wily salesman brings a device that can add or remove stars, and all the Sneetches change so many times they get thoroughly mixed up and decided to treat everyone equally. But Ishizuka and Stevens attacked the poem as insidious because it teaches that color shouldn't matter. The next point is, echoing Kansas State University scholar Philip Nell, they also read a sinister racist subtext into The Cat in the Hat. The magical cat supposedly resembles images from black minstrelsy and exists only to entertain two white children. So, those are the two examples of them peddling extreme ideological dogma.
Wow. And I mean, they're not wrong though. Did she point out why they're wrong?
No, she doesn't. It sits there, which is like for her to like, she moved from the paragraph where she criticizes CNN for not giving any context, and here she calls it peddling extreme ideological dogma, lays out those two examples, and then doesn't further explain to us why these examples are like stupid, right?
You're just supposed to agree with her that these are extreme ideologies.
In fairness,
and therefore wrong.
Right. And in fairness, she links the paper, and so you could read it. It is 30 pages long. Well, it's like 50 pages, but there's like 20 pages of citations. So again, think about that. She linked to like a well-researched document on this subject. And this is all she has to say about it is these two paragraphs. Or 2 points in one paragraph. Now,
that is very interesting. That's all she has to say on that matter.
I'm not going to read this paper for all of us. That would be tedious as shit. But I am going to jump to some of the important passages, but I'm also going to summarize it for it. So like what this paper was in 2018, these two authors, they run a group here. Let me see if I can pull up the name of the group. It's called The Conscious Kid, and it's supposed to improve children's literature, make the children's literature more diverse and stuff like this. So the paper was written to the NEA, trying to get them to understand that Dr. Seuss has some racial implications and why you might not want to include it in a curriculum that supposedly is wanting to be diverse and inclusive, and especially because you think that, for example, these other books like The Sneetches is teaching an anti-racist message. So their argument is not only do these books don't teach adequate anti-racist messages, the whole bulk of Dr. Seuss's work has problems in it. And part of what they did was they looked at every human character in a Dr. Seuss's book and like categorized them into the races that they're depicted on in the book, and was like every non-white character in a Dr. Seuss book, almost, I think it was to the T, every single one of them is depicted in exotic, what they describe as Orientalist depictions of these characters. So if they're from the Middle East, they'll be portrayed as these like Bedouins riding camels and like flying magic carpets and stuff like this. Yep. If they're Asian,
I guarantee she does not bother at any point to go and point out why any of these statements are wrong.
Oh no, this is all we get from Cathy Young about this paper. But so I do want to focus. So then the other interesting thing is they go over Horton Hears a Who, they go over The Sneetches, and they go over Cat in the Hat. Now, with Horton Hears a Who, they make an interesting case that it doesn't teach a good racial message because it really reads itself as a white savior narrative. Now, I can't remember exactly how Horton Hears a Who goes, but he's basically this Horton person is the one who saves the Who's or whatever. So there's an element of an imbalance there, right? So it's the thing is that it's not like these authors are saying that is definitely racist. What they're saying is if you want to teach a message of anti-racism, the goal shouldn't be to send in a savior who's going to be the one to save you. It's the people in the West need to go save the poor people in the Middle East, right? That's not how you're supposed to do that message. You're supposed to empower people, right? So they're saying even though it's seen as an anti-racist story, it perpetuates anti-racist messaging that we shouldn't want to if the goal is anti-racist education, these should not be the go-to books, is basically their argument. The Sneetches, which, as I'll read what Cathy Young says again. So she goes, take Dr. Seuss's 1961 book, The Sneetches, which has been widely praised for its anti-racist message. Bird-like creatures with stars on their bellies scorn and bully their plain-bellied cousins until a wily salesman brings a device that can add or remove stars, and all the Sneetches change so many times they get so thoroughly mixed up and decide to treat everyone equally. But Ishizuka and Stevens attack the poem as insidious. Again, the word insidious, I Control F the document, doesn't come up once. But she's characterizing it as insidious.
This is Cathy.
You cut out. You might have exploded.
Before it became a cool talk.
Sorry, you cut out there. You got to make your point again.
I was saying, this is the thing I've hated about Cathy Young for the longest fucking time. She's been anti-woke before that was even
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was all in on the anti-SJW shit. She was all in. She was super charitable to Miles Yiannopoulos and all those other fucking chuds, but no charity whatsoever, and went out of her way to be as uncharitable as possible to feminists and Black Lives Matter and yada yada yada. And as you've seen how that's worked out, all those people she once defended, were eventually revealed to be exactly what we all fucking said they were. That she would eventually come out against. But it's but damn, Cathy, where the fuck you been?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Her judgment is because she goes out of her way. Her fucking way to entertain the ideas of reactionaries. She has to. She has to justify. They can't, because we remember at the beginning of her own fucking article, that was the main counter argument, and it was 100% correct. But no, they can't be right. The wokes can't be right. None of them can be right. We can't just let that be. No, we have to make it seem like the position of the reactionaries is reasonable, entirely justified, and substantiated. So she just fluffs up their own inarticulate fucking points with straw mans and bullshit. Because that's just what Cathy does.
Yep. So she labels it insidious and then goes, because it teaches that color shouldn't matter. And that's the point. It teaches that color shouldn't matter. That's what she, I guess, is saying is peddling extreme ideological dogma. So I'm just going to read the little section on the Sneetches, and you tell me, for one, if it's insidious and whether their point is not good. So this is what they got.
Hit it.
Dr. Seuss first published the Sneetches in Red Book in 1953. He said it was inspired by his opposition to anti-Semitism, but a friend told him it was actually anti-Semitic, so he put it aside. Random House compelled him to revise the book and was published in 1961. It features only non-human characters and tells the story through allegories and symbolism. Because this book, published 65 years ago, is being taught as anti-racist in 2018, it was analyzed through a racial lens. Our analysis revealed that when taught as anti-racist, it actually reinforces white supremacy by upholding deficit-based, disempowered narratives of oppressed groups and promoting colorblindness. So here's the thing, they ran a study. You think Cathy mentioned this? And showed that when you teach this as anti-racism, it doesn't convey the message that you want it to. It goes on. The oppressed plain belly sneeches are depicted as moping and doping in their self-hatred and spend all their time, energy, and resources trying to be exactly like the dominant star belly sneeches. This is a problematic and misguided way of perceiving oppressed groups. Oppressed communities are generally fighting to hang on to their own culture and identity and not have it colonized, erased, marginalized, or appropriated by the dominant culture. Oppressed people want to be free of oppression. They do not want to be their oppressor. The plain belly sneeches never challenge their oppressor or the oppression itself. They never resist. The only action they take is to disregard their own identity and culture to take on the one of their oppressor. The plain-bellied sneeches play out an unrealistic scenario of overcoming the intentional discrimination of individual star-bellied sneeches through conformity and assimilation. The book concludes with the plain-bellied sneeches and star-bellied sneeches getting confused as to who is oppressed and who is the oppressor, and they have no choice but to accept each other. Changing their stars every minute or two, they kept running through until neither the plain nor the star-bellies knew whether this one was that one or that one was this one, or which one was that one. This is quoting the book now, because you're like, why are they rhyming now? Or which one was that one or which one was who. That day, all the sneeches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon theirs. Okay? And then they conclude, this promotes the false and problematic narrative that forgetting or not acknowledging the historical narrative that impacts present-day race, and not seeing a difference, colorblindness, are the solutions to racism. In reality, not only is not seeing race not possible, it should not be something children are encouraged to aspire to. Further, using the work of an author with an extensive history of explicit racism to teach anti-racism distorts and erases the harm Seuss has done to oppressed groups. And Cathy Young sums all that up by saying, because it teaches that color shouldn't matter.
She summed all that up because that's what Cathy Young fucking does. So she is a reactionary through and through. That is what she is. She is a bad faith, dishonest hack. It's the reason why she fell for people like Milo and Sargon and all the whole collection of alt-right and IDW and all these motherfuckers. It's why she falls for it every fucking time, because she's just as fucking dishonest. Now she's just as dishonest.
I think the next point is dishonest too. I'll give a warning because we're going to see depictions of minstrelsy. But I will point out, so this is the next thing she says. Echoing Kansas State University scholar Philip Nell, they also read a sinister racist subtext into The Cat in the Hat. So they read into The Cat in the Hat a sinister racist subtext. Okay? The magical cat supposedly, according to Cathy Young, resembles images from black minstrelsy and exists only to entertain white children. So,
supposedly, she says.
Supposedly. Now, I will show you a Twitter thread, and again, content warning, there's going to be images of minstrelsy. This here, what we're going to be seeing right now, is a tweet thread by the people who wrote the paper that we had just gone over, showing comparisons between minstrelsy and the Cat in the Hat. Now, you might say, oh, this is just some like random comparison. But it gets more interesting when you notice that...
Holy shit.
When you notice that there's cartoons that were minstrelsy-like that Dr. Seuss had drawn that are very reminiscent of the Cat in the Hat. It's also interesting to know.
It's a one-to-one fucking comparison. Holy shit, Cathy.
It gets better. So this tweet right here. Dr. Seuss partook in minstrelsy in his own life. He wrote his own minstrel shows and performed in blackface. He wrote his own minstrel shows and performed in blackface. It's also worth noting that he was very open about the fact that the Cat in the Hat was his depiction of a black person that he liked. It was a woman named, I can't remember the name of the woman, but she basically worked in some building that he worked at. And so, like, he was supposed to be a representation of her. So.
Cathy is the epitome of dishonest.
Yes.
That is wow.
I had someone, the person, I won't name names, but the person who sent this to me, like, initially was like, use this as, like, look at how, like, I don't know, like straw manny this is, or like they're being unfair to Dr. Seuss or something like this. But again, especially this one right here, like, and the fact
That's
that Dr.
too
Seuss,
similar.
and the fact that Dr. Seuss wrote and performed in minstrel plays, like Jesus, like like you can't even conceive of the fact that maybe that's what the Cat in the Hat is, maybe.
Oh.
At least I don't think it's unreasonable to draw that conclusion, to say that like maybe we should be a little concerned that this is its history. And
But she dismisses the idea that there's anything to be concerned about. That's her thing. That's her whole thing is downplaying and dismissing the very idea, like the fact that you would even think that there's anything at all to even possibly come to the conclusion that anything he's done in the past was even a little bit racist. You're ridiculous. Because
they read into it a sinister racist subtext. That's what she said. They're the bad ones because they were reading into it, that like a subtext that's not really there. That's the argument here. But it's like the thing that annoys me is like even if it is the case that the Cat in the Hat is not a minstrel character or wasn't like designed after a minstrel character, right? Even if that was the case, you can't just like say that you have like proof of that, right? Like what would the proof be? It's not like you can like cut open Dr. Seuss's head and like, you know what I mean? Like we're limited in our ability to know whether or not that's the case. But here's the thing is the people who wrote the paper made a case. They made an argument. And you might disagree with it, but that's not them reading a sinister racist subtext in it. They had history in it. They pointed to facts about like when you read the paper, that again is linked in this article, and you go through it, they make a compelling case. By the time I was done, I was like, you know what, maybe they're right.
They make a pretty solid fucking case, but Cathy, on the other hand, her case hinges on you just sharing like your preconceived notions that the very idea that it's even possible to interpret Dr. Seuss's work as being racist or inspired by racist caricatures is being ridiculous. Like you have to just already believe that, and that just fills in the blanks. So there's no case to be made. There's no, because, and again, for her and people like her, there was never a case to begin with. There is no argument. They don't have to prove that there's no argument. There just is no argument.
And the thing with like this Philip Nell person who wrote a book on this, which is where the people writing the paper got it, even he says like that doesn't mean that when you're reading Cat in the Hat, like what you're getting is a racist message, right? And it's not like unless this was brought to my attention, I wouldn't even have put two to two together. So like I don't think that it necessarily is like perpetuating some sort of like negative racial stereotype, right? Yeah. But as the authors, like in the section that I read about the Sneetches, which is consistent within the paper that they wrote, their point is that why are we choosing this person who quite possibly like has, given their upbringing, given who they are, all this stuff, there's like icky racial like issues with his work. Why are we hanging on to it when there's a wealth of other literature that does better at teaching anti-racist messages and are just as lovely as any other like, you know what I mean? Like, why are we hanging on to this? That's all their like cases.
Yeah, and then they make a compelling case for that. Cathy doesn't.
No, because here's the thing: is like she's saying like to erase this complicated history really does smack as cancellation, and she's making these people sound like extreme. Well, she says it, peddling extreme ideological dogma. But then it's like, what is like wrong with what they're doing? All they're saying is maybe the NEA shouldn't be promoting these books as inclusive and anti-racist. That's all they're doing. Like, that is not cancellation. That is them putting out in the world that maybe if you're an organization trying to promote diversity and inclusion in like children's literature, maybe you shouldn't be promoting Cat in the Hat. That is all that's happening here. We will finish it though.
Yeah, we gotta wrap it up.
If such takedowns can get an author moved to the problematic list, who and what will escape the purges?
Talking about this, it's very clear what she's doing.
Yeah. Some who support the withdrawal of the 6 Dr. Seuss books argue that even subtle racism must be, and then she puts in quote, exercised. Again, I don't know. I haven't read this.
She's doing that. I guarantee no one has said that, and she's putting words in people's mouths.
Actually, let's do this right now. I might not be able to read it because of a thing here. Oh yeah, it's gonna prevent me. Paywall. Oh no, is it?
That cut into a lot of the time.
Here, let's see if I can. Okay, Control F is not working. Well, it's saying exercise does not come up. So she quotes this article. Let me go back to the piece. Let's see what's going on here. She goes, some who support the withdrawal of 6 Dr. Seuss books argue that even subtle racism must be, and then quote, exercised from our cultural legacy, especially works intended for children. And I just Controlled F the article that she cites. And, oh wait, no, it says they're right. Oh, I put exercised. I'm an idiot.
Exercise, dum-dum, exercise.
So it's right in the title. Racism must be exercised from culture, including or maybe especially from children's culture. Okay, and I'm going to read it. Racism must. Okay, this is how he ends the article. Racism must be exercised from culture, including or maybe especially from children's culture. Teaching a child to hate or be ashamed of themselves is a sin against their innocence and a weight against their possibilities. Okay, like whatever. I agree, actually.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But if the exorcism, you are sounding like you are in the meat grinder again. I don't know if you like moved sharply or something.
No, I had to download some files for work, but my internet was acting funky.
You're back now. You're back.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear what you said though. Whatever the last thing you said is before you said you're back was just like.
Yeah, it's internet. It's that time was the internet, not the internet.
Yeah. She goes on though. But if the exorcism targets racial codes so subtle that they are invisible or innocuous to the naked eye, a black and white cat wearing white gloves represents racist minstrelsy? ? It could do much more harm than good, fostering both paranoia and backlash. And imagine how much art and literature will have to be junked if we ever apply the same magnifying lens to gender stereotypes. Again, the argument is maybe we shouldn't be teaching this as anti-racism education. Jesus.
But again,
Christ.
This is what her, the critical race theory, the anti-critical race theory people, the anti-woke, this is their whole fucking shtick. It is aggressively not understanding they're making a case for themselves.
You cut out.
Me.
All we got was making a case for themselves.
Long story short, it's just lazy fucking reactionary bullshit, period.
Yeah. So we got 3 quick little paragraphs there. Nor is it clear that, as Boston Globe writer Ty Burr suggests, the withdrawn books will still be available in libraries and on websites like Amazon. Once a work has been stigmatized as quote-unquote harmful, libraries will undoubtedly come under pressure to remove it, and Amazon sometimes drops books it considers offensive. Again, I don't care. I've had this brought up to me too, because apparently the Toronto Library, and I guess there's other libraries in the United States, are considering removing these 6 books as well. And it's like, I honestly don't care. I don't care if they purge all of Dr. Seuss's books from the library. Because again, there's so many books out there. It's not a heavy-handed authoritarian move or some nonsense like that to have a board on a library committee make a decision not to stock this book anymore. Just like they make decisions all the time to not stock all kinds of books. Until the Toronto Library stocks my personal manifesto, I will be forever angry. The answer isn't that anything goes. It's that we can use common sense. We just need common sense to distinguish between old texts or images that degrade or dehumanize members of a group and ones that reflect dated but non-malignant stereotyping. Among the canceled Dr. Seuss books, for instance, If I Ran the Zoo, really does contain some shockingly racist iconography of Africans as thick-lipped, pot-bellied, half-naked savages in grass skirts. Sounds pretty bad. Yeah. On the other hand, the supposedly racist depiction of a Chinese man in To Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street involves an actual costume worn in parts of China at the time the book was published, a bowl of rice and chopsticks. Then she has in like brackets here, the original edition also gave the man bright yellow skin and a pigtail and referred to him as Chinaman. But Dr. Seuss himself later made changes. This is often cited, and I did this myself on our Friday show. This is cited as the apology. This is like...
That's an apology! That's just caving to whatever pressure. Like, hey, somebody was probably, hey, bro, you need to change your shit right now.
From what I
understand...
You
gotta apologize to change your shit.
From what I understand is a fan or a friend came to him and was like, this is a racist depiction of Chinese people. We don't call ourselves Chinamen. We call ourselves Chinese. And he agreed with his friend and went back and updated the future editions. That's like the story of it. But again, so it's like he had a moment. And here's the thing. Good. I am glad that in this moment he had a change. But why did he not do that in the If I Ran the Zoo story that contains Africans as thick-lipped, pot-bellied, half-naked savages in grass skirts? So it's like this is the complicated legacy. It's like it's not as simple to say that like he is completely innocent, he apologized, he backtracked. He's complicated, just like everyone else is in history, you know?
Yeah, but no, she had, and again, the people critiquing him actually make the effort to point out the complicated nature of all of this, whereas Cathy Young doesn't.
No. Or at least it's like, to what end? Because like she's doing it to say that like what? Like that there's some worry that these books will get pulled from a library? Or like there's some worry that like this will go too far to some extent? When really like what's motivating this is like, where are we using this? Because like I personally don't want these books sitting in a children's section in a library. I don't. And I personally don't want these books being taught as anti-racist when they're not to children.
And these books are the epitome of exactly what the whole anti-woke movement is, what the whole FAIR organization is. Their idea of anti-racism, of the correct anti-racism, is exactly the problem.
Yeah.
That was pointed out in critiquing Dr. Seuss's books. They are the epitome of the exact problem of trying to push a kind of color blindness and what was that other fucking thing? I get a brain on top of my head there. Oh, and just a kind of acceptance of the status quo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because because if you push back, that's going to create backlash. Again, just take note of the backlash. Always at the point that there's going to be a backlash. But that's what conservatives always do, is talk about there's going to be a backlash, because they live in a constant state of slippery slope to justify their own overreactions to this even mild fucking pushback.
But it was as well the how do I put this? Like they did studies, right? And the studies showed that like there are these negative effects to these things. So it's like, even so she goes on here like with the Chinaman example. Mildly stereotypical? Sure, but much the same way as, say, the depiction of a Jewish man wearing a yarmulke and eating a bagel, or a Scotsman playing bagpipes and a kilt. Many Asian Americans have said they don't find the picture offensive, and effectively purging the book from Dr. Seuss canon because of it seems excessive. But here's the thing is, they did research showing that these caricatures, these racial stereotypes, actually did have negative effects. That you could study it and see that like children who get these images are more likely to like think in ways that essentialize people's like racial character. So it's like none of that.
She omits that completely.
Yep. And so here's the final paragraph. Should children's literature adapt to a more racially and ethnically diverse, more gender-equal society? Of course! So see, this is why it's even-handed. But the way to do that is to add new classics, not discard old ones. Given the speed of cultural shifts today, people are right to worry about harsh and unforgiving judgments of dated attitudes. And when a writer who cheers the Dr. Seuss cancellation warns that we will have to get rid of other things too, we are right to feel the chill. That's it.
Her whole argument banks on omitting a whole lot of fucking shit and and making her opponent's position out to be is just to be completely ridiculous, and you should not even bother entertaining. She doesn't bother to entertain the possibility that maybe they have a point.
Yep.
That maybe there's some truth to what they're saying. It's the same shtick she's been pulling for years. And that's why I'm not particularly worried, because I know how it's going to end. It's going to end the same way it always fucking ends for her. She ends up looking like a jackass by the end.
Now, I wanted to end, if you got a few more minutes, there is a 6-minute clip by Michael Knowles I wanted to plow through.
Oh, God.
But I don't know if you... Here, I'll try to share the screen here. Only because, like, again, it has more to do with highlighting the subtext here, which I think is, like, there's aspects of this which is, like, very, I don't know, in ways you could see how this is, like, somewhat similar to Cathy's argument, but done where it's, like, closer to the white nationalist, like line here, right? So, the reasons for Dr. Seuss book banning are insane is the title of this video.
Oh boy, here we go.
So I shared the screen in the Discord, or I don't know if you're watching it on
because
the stream.
I'm watching it on your Twitch.
All right, here we go.
We're living in the most radical culture we've ever seen, where even Dr. Seuss is not safe from being canceled. 6 books by Dr. Seuss will no longer be published. Those books are And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street. Actually, these are books that I haven't really read of Dr. Seuss's.
I love that too, because it's always books they've never read.
So I love Mulberry Street. Kind of wish I had that book. If I Ran the Zoo, Nick Elligott's Pool.
They admit that they...
I'm mad over the... That was like when we watched the guy on Friday from The Rebel. He got mad at, like... of these things, and then showed the images, and then was just like, yeah, those ones were kind of bad.
Because they know they're supposed to be opposed to something changing, but they actually don't. They're also really fucking lazy.
Yeah.
So they don't actually look into it before making those knee-jerk defenses.
No, because you have to read that 30-page report that I read.
That's a lot of fucking words, man. I don't know.
Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, and The Cat's Quizzer.
The Scrambled Egg Super sounds delicious.
Probably the most beloved children's author ever in the history of the United States. They're banned because they have insensitive and politically correct depictions of cats or something. I don't know. I haven't read them.
Yeah. So you said Izzy? Yeah, no.
That's the thing. They really telling on themselves. He's being funny. He's trying he's not even like being funny. He's genuinely he has not read them.
Yeah. What? No, they haven't read any of it at all. That's all this is. But I guess you were saying something about like because he quoted him as the most beloved. And I don't know if he's the most beloved, but like everyone I know read Dr. Seuss when they were younger. I mean, I read it to the point where like I have read Dr. Seuss to my kids,
Beloved is a bold statement. I would say more like the kind of thing pushed on kids by like every fucking adult. I don't know if I'd say beloved.
Yeah, I guess like I perpetuated it. I pushed it on my own kids. It's like, but here's the thing: is like
I didn't care.
Yeah. No. And I enjoy some of it, especially the ones that are like less problematic. But like, I do agree with you. Like beloved, I don't know.
No, but I wouldn't do like beloved. Like by who?
Yeah. I don't know. I think people beloved like maybe Robert Munch a lot more. It sounds a little more like it. Anyways.
Universal Islands of Adventure theme park, which is located in Florida,
Yeah.
is now looking getting rid of the Dr. Seuss themed area of the park.
Oh no!
In light of the new cancellation of certain Dr. Seuss books. I tried to buy these Dr. Seuss books for my cute little baby, sweet little newborn June. Wanted to make
he
sure
would
that
show
he had
those
access
to
to
his
Dr.
kids.
Seuss.
Yeah, I know.
Because he had to have at a point looked at them.
No, he still
Like,
hasn't.
buddy. Oh boy, we keep going.
He's like, no, I'm trying to go. Like, God forbid they like. I get it. Comes to a thing of like, okay, so they're like discontinuing. Like, does the theme park related to Dr. Seuss within the Walt Disney compound need to be there forever? Or
basically what they're.
You got so angry you exploded.
I'm sorry.
That's. But yeah, they want it to be. It's like you must preserve everything forever. That's like their position.
What their position boils down to.
Yeah. You can't find them if you go on Amazon and other places. These books, the remaining supply are selling for like $2,000 right now because they know they're not going to be produced anymore. The left is thrilled about this. Washington Post defending the cancellation of Dr.
The
Seuss.
left,
This is
Washington
Philip
Post.
Bump, writing for the Washington Post. I don't know who Philip Bump is. They don't include a biography of him. The headline, if curtailing racist imagery in Dr. Seuss is cancel culture, what exactly is your culture? It's a bunch of nonsense, but the lines that matter. No one is canceling Dr. Seuss, a phrase by now so detached from reality that it doesn't even make any sense. The author himself is dead, for one thing, which is about as canceled as a person can get. Not true if you believe in heaven, you damned heretic. But
Dr. Seuss is dead. Boo! I do like that.
He died.
I did like that Washington Post headline, or the guy writing it though, to say that the ultimate cancellation was death.
Did he really frame it like that?
Yeah, that's amazing. Washington Post leftist Philip Bump.
Oh boy.
That's right. Rush Limbaugh got super canceled recently.
Oh yeah, the death is the ultimate canceller.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I digress. The vast majority of his books, the ones without racist images or references, will still be sold. The ones without racist images. You sure about that? I'll pause there. By the way that the term racist has been expanded in recent years, expanded to mean absolutely nothing at all, the charge that he makes about the phrase cancel culture, do you really think that any of our past is safe from cancellation? I do.
That is the exact argument that Cathy was making, wasn't it? That it's like, well, if you allow in this little one in, then it'll expand and take over everything, and then everything will be canceled. And isn't that chilling? It's the exact same argument, but it's coming out of the mouth of a white nationalist. And if you don't believe he's a white nationalist, we'll hear about it in a few seconds. I don't know if you're still there, Rico, or if you've imploded. Because I cannot hear you. Oh, Rico's gone. Rico?
Hello. Can you hear me now?
You're back. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it cut me out.
Magic. I don't know what happened. Your internet's spotty.
I fucking hate my internet.
But did you hear the last points he was making?
Yeah, I did.
Like that's exactly what Cathy was arguing, right?
Really, beat for beat, what she was arguing.
Yeah. I think everything is going to be called racist. Or if they finally deprive the word
they live in a constant state of apocalypse and slippery slopes which argues effectively, don't do anything. The status quo is fine. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And so, therefore, no. But also, it's not really racist anyways. So, it's like they don't have. It's so fucking dumb. You're not only arguing that you for the status quo, but you're also implicitly and sometimes explicitly just stating that they don't actually have an argument anyways. Like, yeah, even if we seeded that this was it, they'll just run with it. But there's nothing to seed anyways because there is no point.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and they make it so like the only example of racism can be where you have someone like in the act being like, I am racist. You know, that's the only moment where you can be like, oh, look, this was racist.
Yep.
Anything else is just like, well, you're just reading into it, man. It's all context. Where did you get there? You need to read everything. You can't just like make those conclusions.
It's the same tired fucking argument. They keep doing this. I am so tired of it.
Yeah, well, I hope like with your responses earlier about just like they're kind of dying. Like, I mean, like here's the thing is like put it in the American context right now. Like, it's amazing to me that you're passing one of the largest, most progressive bills since FDR.
Yeah.
And while this is going on, they're complaining about Dr. Seuss.
And that's because this is all they have left. I told you, they blew their load. They blew their load. The culmination of all of this shit. They blew it on January 6th.
Yeah.
And now they've got nothing left. And this is all they're just defaulting to the one tried and true method, and that's the culture war.
Yeah.
But again, that's not gonna work out. That's not gonna win them any elections. In the same way it would have in the past after catastrophe. You know what I mean? Like, this is again.
Not if I have
anything
to do with it.
This was an attack on the U.S. government. If you'd like, other than the ones themselves who have tried to retcon it and just they have sunk into delusion, the rest are genuinely just scared or disillusioned and they just don't want anything to do with this shit anymore. Well, you know what I mean?
They're like trying to like squeeze as much juice out of this orange as possible, but like part of it was it's like it got the momentum up to like January 6th, but now even like hopefully some people within that are starting to realize like how much of this like Trump didn't fight for us, he walked away, and like should we like what's happening? Like everyone's in this like state of confusion, and then they're still trying to the culture, and it's like
because that's what they're following because that's all they got left. That is all they got left because they can't defend what happened on January 6th on the merits. They can't oppose the COVID bill on the merits. They have nothing. They've turned on their own base who participated in the Capitol insurrection. So they've had no choice but to see that Biden definitely won, which their base hates and refuses to admit. So they don't have the type of I would say control that they used to have. Nothing is sticking anymore.
Yep. Well, especially we're gonna keep them on their toes at least. we're not gonna let them fucking stick it.
Oh, for sure. And brother, if HR 1 passes, that voter expansion bill that they're going with, the voter protection and massive expansion, they're done. Like electorally, they're like save for some state races, some state and local races, they will never touch the federal government ever again, and they know it.
Hopefully, and let's hope Joe Manchin doesn't fuck you over.
Yeah, I mean, if that bill passes, the Republican Party is on a national level is done.
Hey,
they're fucked. It's over.
Radical positivity. Joe Manchin's been hinting that he wants to do the talking,
other than getting rid of it. Yeah,
which is like, hey, that is pretty much getting rid of it. So if he wants to toe that, if that's going to be the line he draws, fine, let him draw it, and hopefully it goes through.
But that bill needs to pass, and when it does, the Republican Party is done for. But just genuinely done for.
Let's see. We got 3 minutes left of this, and we're gonna get some what I think are white nationalist dog whistles here.
Ooh, go for it.
Racist of all meaning, which I think effectively they already have. They'll just come up with a new term. You already see they posted supremacist. Nationalist now is a bad term. They're just gonna cancel every. If you can.
Supremacist is a bad term.
Just keep going. Just let's power through this shit. Let's keep going.
Cancel Dr. Seuss. Do you really think they're going to stop with a few books of Dr. Seuss? But this fellow at the Washington Post goes on. If Dr. Seuss's profile wanes a bit as a result of the attention being paid to his drawings, the only form of canceling at play here, to whom is harm being done? Can't be to Dr. Seuss because he's already dead. The harm is being done, of course, to our culture. But this guy goes on. Seuss's caricatures are hurtful anachronisms. Anachronisms, right? So what he's saying is it's not that they're wrong and evil. He's saying they're just outdated. This guy is taking a progressive view of history. So he's actually kind of already giving up the game. He's saying they're anachronisms, meaning things from the past are bad and you got to get rid of them. So he's undercutting his own argument that other things from the past will be fine. And no, they're anachronistic. They're from the past. The past is bad. It's a progressive view of history whereby we have to kill our forebears, kill the culture that we've inherited, kill this great gift that we've been given down through the ages to move into the future which will liberate us.
So notice, like, he's talking about this in such stark terms because, like, this is the, like, the National Socialist, like, lens to this. It's this idea of, like, there's this mythical cultural past that we have to, like, we have this nostalgic attachment to and we must keep it alive. And, like, the leftists are killing our culture. They're destroying it. And we need to protect it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what they do. Again, it's what this same rhetoric is what led to January 6th, and that blew up in their faces.
Right, because like, what's the end result of this? Like, I mean, it's the same thing that people get on with like Infowars, which is like Alex Jones pushes people right up to the line all the time. That like we're under threat, they're coming to kill us. We gotta move now. We gotta act. But then it's like the actions that you need to do, if Alex Jones is correct, is like an armed insurrection against the government. But of course, he knows that his grift has to stop there, because if he keeps like going further, then you get the armed insurrection. And like as you see with January 6th, it deflates it because it wasn't unless you have the like the critical mass necessary and everyone's ready to storm the gates. Then you get this like fizzled out fart, and now people realize how weak and ineffectual they are.
Yeah, that's like, and they're just going back to what they know best, because this is all they've got. But they blew their fucking load. There is no one who's going to be able to be the amalgamation with the charismatic amalgamation of all their disparate, contradictory, nonsensical beliefs the way Trump was. There is no one who has the juice.
But that's like what I'm getting at here, though, is that like even with the like he's saying that they're still here. They're still coming for our culture. And then, like, I feel like what's happening is, like, people are realizing, it's like, you've been saying they've been coming for our culture for, like, ever now. And we had the moment to do something. We had a moment to do something, and where was Michael Knowles? Michael Knowles is still just saying culture.
He was nowhere to be found. None of them, really.
Yep.
None of them. All these people who've been telling them for years that they were coming for their culture, you need to fight for your culture. January 6th was the day to fight for their culture. And like you said, Michael Knowles was nowhere to be found. Ben Shapiro, nowhere to be found. None of them were there. In fact, they've all threw them under the bus now.
And I would hope that the response to that would be them realizing that they need to like rethink and like they leave these ideologies behind. The other worry is that they double down and like regroup. Like that is a reasonable concern to be worried about. But my hope is that a sufficient number of them go, oh my God, I was in a grift. I was in a cult. I bought the line when it was clearly all bullshit all along, you know? And you at least got that with a bunch of QAnon supporters after the insurrection where like it was all a lie and started to jump ship. And we need to encourage more of that, you know?
Yep.
What's more, until a few weeks ago, my son didn't know this book existed. So where's the harm in his not seeing its images? Why would anyone think it is less problematic for a kid to be exposed to racist caricatures of African, or, at a different point in this book, Asian people, than for him not to be?
Exactly.
This isn't some toxic cancel culture. If it were, what would you say? What would that say about the culture that you're defending? So he's saying, look, it's not cancel culture. He's undercutting his argument immediately. He says, this isn't cancel culture. But we're going to cancel all that bad old culture. And what, are you going to defend it? What are you, a racist or something? Right? This isn't cancel culture. But if it were, are you a racist? You're sure not going to defend it, are you? There is no limiting principle here. This is another aspect of our culture, and political correctness specifically, that Trump got 100% right. And everybody made fun of him at the time. You remember when he was defending Robert E. Lee statues? There's a big left-wing hubbub to take down Robert E. Lee, who is one of the noblest men to ever fight for a bad cause, right?
I'm not even addressing that. I'm not even addressing that.
I'll address it to the point of just like, how dog whistly do you want to get? Like,
it's just the thing is, and the thing is, Jody, I'm honestly just like I'm uninterested now. Because we saw what this led to.
Yeah.
And we saw when the chips were down what all these guys would do. Michael Knowles folds. Ben Shapiro folds. Tim Pool folds. All of them fold. When the chips are down, they fold and turn on them, on the people that they're stoking, the people that they're making all this money off of, the people their careers are spent catering to.
The thing that blows...
That's why... Oh, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, the thing that blows my mind is it's very clear to me that what this guy... Like, this guy is very... I call them dog whistles, but they're almost not even dog whistles. Like, this guy is so clearly a white nationalist. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. So clearly. And yet he's on Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's fucking network. And it's like, Jewish Ben Shapiro, why are you platforming this?
Because Ben Shapiro believes the same thing. Again, Ben Shapiro's his only line with white nationalists is that, the whole hatred of Jews thing. Yeah. So, of which he parallels with, in that he believes that most Jews are bad Jews.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's the same thing. We've covered this on our show too. Like, Ezra Levant is Jewish, and he's had segments on his show with even Joel Pollack from Breitbart, like, talking to each other about like how other Jews are bad and they're the only like good Jews because they believe in the state of Israel and like all these other things, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but it still is. It's like the difference is though. It's like, I think, as much as like Ben Shapiro is like right wing and definitely has some of these elements to him, it's like this is so like not overt, and you would think that like, given that he's Jewish, and even like with Ezra, given that they're Jewish, that they would want to hide this shit a little more, but they don't. They put it like right out in the open on their thing, and it's like it's pretty blatant, pretty fucking blatant. Look at the final minute in here.
Robert E. Lee, the idea that Robert E. Lee was some kind of vicious man is...
Fighting for slavery?
Preposterous. It's anti-historical. And the idea that we need to erase half of our country, or more than half of our country, that probably was. I don't think the left just wants to erase the South. I think they want to erase the entire traditional American nation.
Traditional?
It's crazy. So he said, okay, you're going after Robert E. Lee now, and some people aren't going to defend him because he fought for the mean old Southerners. You really think they're going to stop with Robert E. Lee?
Yeah.
No, I think they're going to go after
That's how you want
Lincoln.
To name it?
They're gonna...
I know.
That he just fought for the mean old Southerners. The mean old Southerners, Michael. What specifically were the mean old Southerners fighting for, Michael? Please elaborate, Michael. I'm a big dum-dum. I would very much like to know.
Notice how he hasn't said slavery a single time. He just said all he said was a bad cause.
A bad cause, the big meaty Southerners. But he can't say slavery. He can't, because slavery is bad. And well, if it's bad, then that means the left has a point.
I'm almost surprised he referred to it as the bad cause and not like, well, it was a good cause because it was state rights.
Honestly, that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised he didn't pull that card. I'm genuinely surprised.
Yeah.
They're going to go after Jefferson. They're going to go after Washington. And people laughed at him and they mocked him at the time. And then what happened? Within a year or two, left-wing agitators started pulling down statues of Jefferson and Washington and Lincoln, renaming schools, erasing our culture. If you enjoyed that...
Erasing our culture.
Erasing our culture. What are you going to do about it, Michael? You going to storm the Capitol again, Michael?
Hello, my rebels. Hello, my rebels. I'm a good boy. I'm a weirdo.